Yeah, Pirate Bay's still a thing. I guess that's true. It's just not. It's not what it used to be. I I remember. God, I'm getting old. It's. I'm lamenting the days of the old internet days. They weren't better. Well, they were better and they were worse. I mention this a lot, but it's important. The most important sentence that I have ever had a history professor say to me, the most important sentence, is, well, I guess it's two sentences. There were no good old days. Everything has been awful forever. she said it in response to a student who was talking about. We were talking about early modern writing in the United States, particularly the late 1800s, and talking about themes that the authors were exploring and talking about. And one student, who was not particularly articulate, and he had a bit of a arrogant, I-know-it-all kind of attitude, but he didn't really know it all, and I don't think history was the best thing for him to be studying because, I don't know, I don't mean to be a prick about it, but like, some people get it and some people don't. Some people are into history because, ooh, it's novel, isn't this interesting? And they're the sort of people who have a very apprentice, new kind of understanding of concepts and principles and things. Okay, I gotta give the cat water. I feel bad. And he said, oh, you know, they're just talking about the good old days and how they wish we're back. And she went off on him a little bit by saying, it's very important this, if you don't remember anything else, remember this, there were no good old days. Everything has been awful forever. It's so true. So dang true. Yeah. Oh, God, I haven't been on Twitch to check notifications in a while. Oh, I'll do that once I'm off of here. you should see my Steam message backlog. It's bad. Oh God, like my emails. In my main email account right now, I have 39,622 unread messages. I'm not ghosting you. I'm ghosting the world. I have really good days, like today. I'm like, yeah, I can engage with society. Then there are other days, most days, where it's like, you know what? Nah. Oh God, like my dating profiles are horrible right now. There are some very cool people on there who I am very attracted to and very interested in, but I just don't have the energy to carry on a conversation. But at the same time, I don't want to delete my account, so I'm really in limbo about it, which is a bad position to be in, both for me and for the people who I'm talking to. Like on OkCupid, like 6 people. On Tinder, like 8 people. And I don't know, something like a dozen on Facebook dating. It's bad. It's bad. I need to actually talk to people, but I'll sit down with my phone in front of me. I'm like, this is too much emotional energy. Like, if I could sit down and have coffee with someone and just a passive conversation, God, that's one thing. But I'm sick and fucking tired of the back and forth and having to make sure we're not serial killers or sociopaths before we actually meet each other, because this is a weird fucking world and people get taken advantage of and hurt, and I appreciate that, and it's tiring. Life is tiring. The good old days of my country being split between Austria, Russia, and the Ottomans for 400 years. Gonna have to be more specific. Is that Romania? That's not true for Bulgaria, right? I think Romania is the only country that applies to? Yes, that's Romania. Okay. I'm like, well, Russia had a hegemony in a lot of the Balkans, but I think they only ever controlled directly Romanian land. Maybe a little Bulgarian land for a little while? Maybe? I don't know. Oh. Yeah, like the good old days have sucked. In the United States, there's this weird image of the 1950s as being a golden era. But in 1951, okay, let's see. Let's make sure I'm right about this. December of 1951, let's get the name right, Civil Rights Congress, which was a African American civil rights union and advocacy group, it submitted to the United Nations after the United Nations had prior signed a agreement banning genocide. This group presented to the United Nations a document called "We Charge Genocide: The Crime of Government Against the Negro People." Yeah, and you can go read through it, and it details the interesting treatment of large swaths of the American population in the 1950s. That was just fucking abysmal. And of course, nothing happened because the United States controlled too much of the UN, and really who in the UN except the USSR was going to give the US shit for our horrible racial inequality. And they were already doing that because, yeah. God. Yeah, and today's situation is bad, but it might be less bad? Yeah, Romania's had a rough fucking time. I think for outsiders, when we think about Romania, a lot of folks think about, really they think about Transylvania. They think about the 1400s, right? And maybe a little bit later, and then Romania just kind of gets occupied by the Ottomans, the Russians, and the Austrians for a few centuries. Yeah, I think a lot of Eastern Europe has that. Well, that might not be true. Maybe a lot of the Balkans might share in that spirit of there were no good old days, but a lot of countries have this mythology of things being better. Like, and it's linked to the rise of a lot of nationalist movements these days. Poland has this bygone golden era that they're very intent on popularizing. I think a lot of European countries have that, but oh, alright, yeah. Transylvania seems like a beautiful place to live, but nah, not for me. I need a place that is rainy, super rainy. Like, I have a hard time imagining somewhere outside of Seattle where I'd be super happy with the weather. But yeah, it sounds really nice to go wander around the Carpathians. I live in London? No. London is... when I was younger, it had a lot of appeal. My mother's family way back, or English nobility, and that was something I was hype on when I was a kid, but just about everybody's family was English nobility. It's not true, it's just not as special as I thought it was. Um, so I had aspirations when I was younger of moving to the UK someday to at least see what it's like. No, not so much. It sounds awful, given the political environment there. I mean, the US sucks politically, but I have skin in the game, at least. I'm already in this deep. I might as well support the changes I'd like to see here, rather than going somewhere else and getting involved in somebody else's fight. The nobility I come from are up in Northumberland, so they're weird, quiet country folk who every century or so got uppity and had a rebellion. It would be very cool if the United Kingdom had a repatriation program where folks from the colonies could move back, and that's not a thing. Then I can't really blame them for not having that, because the United Kingdom, starting in like the 60s and 70s, was very displeased that people from the rest of the colonies, particularly the not white part of the colonies, decided that they wanted to move to Great Britain. Because they had the attitude like, oh, we can colonize you, but you just stay there and we will strip mine your country, but don't come back here. Yeah. God. The English are really bastards. Historically, I mean literally, with good old Willy Boy. But it's a little crushing. That's pretty cool. I really like hearing and learning about all these little stories about why people's ancestors came to the United States. I mean, sometimes they're pretty boring stories, right? Like, potato famine. Like, yes, you and many other people. But learning smaller stories helps make it feel more real and more significant. But also, especially when your family's been in the United States as long as mine have, both sides of my family, you start running into some pretty uncomfortable realities, like going back to the old family graveyard and seeing that there are unmarked burial markers, or unmarked burial sites, or markers without names on it, that were for slaves. It's a weird fucking experience. Very uncomfortable. Very uncomfortable. And there are no names, so you can't really trace if they have families still around, so it's impossible for reparations or anything like that to happen. So the best that my family can do is just upkeep the graveyard and try to maintain some sort of dignity. But it's super weird. Super weird. Yeah, that's history, though.